am a member of this congregation and a member of the Committee on Ministry, and I am honored to serve as your worship associate this morning. We welcome you to our worship service, celebrated here each week, mindful of the principles of free faith. To describe a little about what Unitarian Universalism is today, I will share with you some words from the Reverend William Sinkford. It's complicated. The Unitarian side of our family tree tells us that there is only one God, one spirit of life, one power of love. The Universalist side tells us that God is a loving God, condemning none of us and valuing the spark of divinity that is in every human being. So Unitarian Universalism stands for one God, no one left behind. Although we practice a free faith, it is also one that requires responsibility. We have a church covenant, which is a shared agreement that we recite together each week and reminds us of our closely held values. The mission of our church is we learn, we lead, we love. Today we're limiting our announcements. If you would like to look at them, and please do, they are in the back of your order of service. I would simply like to emphasize one of them, and that is tomorrow at noon we will be in the march celebrating Martin Luther King, and that will be starting at noon at the courthouse downtown. I will be there. I hope to see as many of you there as possible.
Excuse me, did you see the announcement I left on the podium about it's a typewritten sheet of paper? No? Allow me then briefly if you don't have it. It's not over you.
An addendum. He's a lot of trouble, but I really like him. Mark your calendars for Saturday, February 17th. We're having a fundraiser for the church. We are presenting the UU Musical Review. That should be good. We've had Broadway nights in the past. This year we are expanding to music from other styles. The choir will have a set. Colin is bringing a jazz combo, and Thoreau Rocks, the UU band, will have songs too. Come to listen, sing along, dance, enjoy refreshments with your friends, and contribute to the workings of the church. More specifics to come soon. Welcome. How soon, I don't know.
Define soon. No, don't define.
It is our custom in this church to welcome visitors and to offer visitors and newcomers a chance to introduce themselves if they feel comfortable doing so. If it's your first, second, or third time to visit, or if you haven't been back for a few years, we invite you to stand as you are able, or raise your hand and tell us your name and where you are from. Do we have any brave visitors? There's one, two. 3, 4. Woo! Woo! Oh my. Okay. And in the corner. Okay, we're going to go ahead and work from front to back, left to right.
Great. My name's Charlie and my wife Catherine. We live in Portland, Texas. We have 2 young ladies that are somewhere over there. They're 15. Hopefully they're having a blast. Formerly Methodist, just kind of wanted to see what else was out there and felt that our church didn't align with what we believed, and we're really trying to make a turn to, not to get political, but live the way we vote and vote the way we live. And
And ma'am?
I'm Ricky Mundy, and I'm here from Rockport. We just recently moved here to Corpus, so and I have been an active Unitarian Universalist in other places, Kansas City, Chicago. So I feel like I've come home.
You are home. Ma'am.
New York City. I'm Barbara. I'm from here in Corpus, and I want to work on loaning my son better. I'm Amelia, and this is Arthur. I am actually Barbara's cousin. We came together today, and we're just kind of in the process of church shopping, I guess.
Oh.
And this is our first stop. So far, so good. We really like it.
Okay. Ma'am?
I'm Emily Palmer. I was born and raised in Corpus. This is my second week here. I'm Jessica Lee. I'm from Flower Bluff. I've been living here for about a year. I've never been to a church before. I wasn't born with any religion. I consider myself agnostic now, but I just wanted to give it a shot. I have a family, but I wanted to come and try it out.
Check this out.
I'm John, my wife Johanna, and this is our granddaughter, Olivia, who has a mind of her own. And we're from Missouri City, Texas, outside of Houston, and we're just here to visit the School Cutie and the rest of the...
We're members of the first UU of Houston.
My name is Bill, my wife Michelle. We recently moved to Corpus from Dalton, Texas. So we lived in Austin for a number of years. We had some familiarity with the Unitarian Church in Austin, although we weren't members, but we decided to come here and give it a try. And a lot of the ideas that we experienced in Austin fit our beliefs as well as yours.
I'm Lori Nuremberg. I came to visit my dear friend Patsy, and I go to the UU Church in Victoria, Texas.
Welcome, Victoria. Welcome, Houston. And that's the first time I recall a visitor joining the choir.
One
Oh,
more.
in the corner, please. Sorry.
I'm Fernando. I just moved here. I've been here since I was little. I've been in California the last 10 years.
To each and every one of you, we are thrilled to have you here. If this does not turn out to be your spiritual home, but I hope it will be, keep shopping, don't give up, and don't believe that this is the best service that can be put on. The amateurs are up to bat today, okay? And please, feel free to join us after the message and for coffee and conversation, because that's the best chance to get to know us, by hanging around and for us to get to know you. We now invite you into a time of worship. It says choir sings.
Actually, it's a band. I'm in a band.
Band sings. Okay.
Oh yeah. Still don't know what I was waiting for, and my time was running wild, a million dead-end streets, and every time I thought I'd got it made, it seemed the taste was not so sweet. So I turned myself to face me, but I've never caught a glimpse of how the others must see the fakers. I'm much too fast to take that test. Changes.
And face is strange.
Changes. Don't want to be a richer man. Changes.
Turn and face is strange.
Changes. It's gonna have to be a different man. Time may change me, but I can't trace time. I watch the ripples change their size, but never leave the stream of warm impermanence. And so the days float through my eyes, but still the days seem the same. And these children that you spit on, as they try to change their worlds, are immune to your consultations. They're quite aware of what they're going through. Changes.
Turn and face is strange.
Changes. Don't tell them to grow up and out of it. Changes.
Turn and face is strange.
Changes. Where's your shame? You've left us up to our necks in it. Time may change me, but you can't trace time. Strange fascination fascinating me. All changes are taking the pace I'm going through. Changes.
And face is strange.
Changes. Oh, look out, you rock and rollers. Changes.
Turn and face is strange.
Changes. Pretty soon now you're gonna get older. Time may change me, but you can't trace time. I said that time may change me, but I can't trace time.
I'm Ray Rose, and I can guarantee you that this is going to be a different service than what normally happens here. So those of you that are visiting, just understand that. To start off, I'd like to have Kyle light the chalice for us. And while he's lighting that, I want to just read a couple of words from Martin Luther King. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. This is going to be different. With Michael, I was on the search committee that found Reverend Chris. We're also on the comm together. When we were on the search committee, we had a workshop in here, and we asked the congregation what were some of the things you were looking to have happen with a new minister. And one of the things that came up over and over again was to grow the church. So one of the things I want to talk about is change, because you've heard the line, you can't, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect different responses, that's a sign of insanity. And they attribute it to the wrong people. We won't go into who they attribute it to and all that stuff. But so we are looking to change some things that are happening in the church. So that's part of what I want to talk about today, is change, and do a background in that. And to start off, I'd like everybody to have an experience with change. If you could just fold your hands in front of you. And take a look at your hands. Which thumb is on top? Okay, now, you've seen this a couple times if you've done some things. What I want you to do is not just swap which thumb is on top, but to change the order of fingers by sliding up so that you have a different thumb on top. Okay, this is going to be the change that we're going to be talking about today. So if you can hold on to that for a while, that would be great. Guys, can we have the covenant up? Can you get the covenant up? By the way, I'm generally back there. And so Carol and Hatcher are back there doing things, and they're operating on some software that they haven't really been familiar with. So this is a fun experience for them, and thank you guys for doing that. If you could all stand, please. We'd like to read the covenant. They got it. Okay. Love is doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, serve human need, to gain that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all we hold sacred. We've got a hymn. It is Every Me I Feel the Spirit. This is going to be an interesting situation because this is not one that we're real familiar with, is it?
Well, I would hope some of us are.
Some.
Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. On the mountain, I will go. On the mountain, I will go. All around me, the sublime, as my God is all the time. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Yes, every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. The river Jordan runs our home, chills the body, not the soul. England runs rain on the sky, runs together and right now. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Yes, every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray.
Thank you. We would like to invite the young at heart, the young of age
And heart.
and heart, who want to come up and have an interesting time.
Yes, please join us on the story quilt. No age limit required. So I'm Reverend Chris, and I'm so happy to see so many visitors here today. I can't tell you how excited I am. And I want to tell you, I am going to be away next week, so you will not see me. So just so no one gets confused, I actually do really preach here. Okay? So just bear me with for a little while, with me for a little while, and I will be back up there. But today I was asked to do this story, and this is a story we've heard before. But you know, I think the best stories are definitely worth retelling, and this is a really, really important story. So a long time ago, way before you were born, maybe about the time your parents were little kids, there was a special school called the Highlander Folk School. Highlander was in Tennessee in the South. The whole school was nothing more than a few buildings set up on a beautiful hill, surrounded by green forests and farm fields. The people at Highlander believed that all people are equal, that all people should be allowed to go to school, and that the most important thing people need to learn is how to work together and love one another. Back then, believe it or not, African Americans and white people were not allowed to go to the same schools, eat in the same cafeterias, or even get married to one another if they fell in love. But Miles Horton, the man who started the school, believed that all of that was nonsense. He thought all kinds of people of all kinds of colors and from all kinds of backgrounds should be able to work, play, and go to school together. And a lot of famous people were students at Highlander, including Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King Jr. So although it was against the law back then for African Americans and white people to attend the same school, there were always people of all colors at Highlander, learning and playing and working together. One of the things they liked to do the most at Highlander was to make music together. At one time, a whole big choir of African American kids visited from Atlanta, and they stayed at Highlander. And one night, all the kids were watching a movie in the main hall, and the lights were off so everyone could see the movie better. All of a sudden, several big cars roared up to the school, and a lot of angry men got out and barged inside the school. Nobody knew who these men were, but it was obvious they meant trouble. They were mad that African American kids and white kids were going to the same school. And as these men stormed the Highlander Folk School, somebody turned off the movie projector, and the whole place went completely dark. The angry men quickly realized that they had made a big mistake. None of them had been inside the school, so none of them knew where the light switches were. And on top of that, they had forgotten to bring flashlights. So they roared and yelled at the kids to turn on the lights. None of the kids moved a muscle. Then, in the darkness, the kids began to sing. They sang a song called "We Shall Overcome," a very famous song often sung by people who believe that people of all colors can live together in harmony. It goes like this. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. And there are more words to this song, words about walking hand in hand, about being free, and all being together, the whole wide world around. And in that scariest of situations, those kids made up their own words to the song too. To the angry men, they sang, "We are not afraid." We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid today. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we are not afraid today. The kids were supposed to be the scared ones, but now the grown-ups were starting to feel a little nervous. After some more fumbling around, the angry men just gave up, ran back to their cars, and drove away. Those kids learned something important that night. They learned how strong and brave they could be if they stuck together. And the words they made up that night have been a permanent part of the song ever since. The end.
Go now
church community is given life through the contributions of its members and friends, in addition to generously offering our time and talents. Monetary contributions are just as necessary to sustain us. It is just one more way we show our care and concern for each other and for our community. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
Thank you, Kim, for selecting the music. We're fitting right in. In the order of service, it says meditation reading, and it says that Reverend Chris is going to do it, but she's not going to do it. Doing it a little different. What I'd like to do is a little bit of a relaxation activity for you. And I'd like you to just imagine that there's a steamroller coming. And it's going to roll up your body. And so as it's doing that, you're going to tighten the muscles, starting in your feet, rolling up to your knees, your thighs, your hips, into your stomach, tightening all those muscles, chest, shoulders, depends on where your arms are, but you want to tighten up the arms too. Don't forget the arms. Up to your neck. What sort of face can you make if you tighten up your face muscles? Now, that steamroller is going down, and you're going to reverse the process, relaxing all those muscles. Starting again with your head, working down through your chest, stomach, thighs, legs, knees, down to your ankles and your feet. I'm going to take a couple of minutes of silence for you to meditate now. band is playing, if you would like to light a candle for any of your thoughts, Reverend Chris is going to come up here. I'm not going to do it. She's coming through. She'll be standing here. But those of you that have done this before understand. Those of you that are new, if you have a thought, a concern, a wish, and you'd like to light a candle, Bart, feel free. Start the line here. And this is one of my favorite songs.
I'm gonna make a change for once in my life. It's gonna feel real good. Gonna make a difference. Gonna make it right. As I turn up the collar on my favorite winter coat, this wind is blowing my mind. I see the kids in the street, we're not enough to eat. Who am I to be blind, pretending not to see their needs? A summer's disregard, a broken bottle top, and a one-man soul. They follow each other on the wind, you know, 'cause they got nowhere to go. That's why I want you to know I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways, and no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make the change. Na 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 na. I've been a victim of a selfish kind of love. It's time that I realize there are some with no home, not a nickel to loan. Could it be really me pretending that they're not alone? A willow deeply scarred, a broken bottle top, and a washed out dream. They follow the pattern of the wind, you see, 'cause they got no place to be. That's why I'm starting with me. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways, and no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make the change. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways, and no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make that. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways, and no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make the change. Gotta get it right while you got the time, 'cause if you don't, then you'll lose your mind. With the man in the mirror, I'm asking him to change his ways, and no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make that change. Make that change. Make that change. Make that change.
have been asked to contribute to today's message.
I think you volunteered.
It is not a message about being railroaded into public speaking. But it is a message about communication. It is a message about thought, and it's important. And I would like to start it with readings from two of our greatest speakers. The first is from the Buddha. We are shaped by our thoughts. We become what we think. When the mind is pure, joy follows like a shadow that never leaves. Once again, Buddha. The second is almost like a warning. It is from Jadu Krishnamurti. Religion is the frozen thought of man out of which they build temples. Wow, that's what I thought. So where does this leave us? We're not exactly a church. We're not exactly a congregation. Collectively, we are living, breathing thought, a pulsing temple of pure energy. When each of us selects our finest thoughts and we share them amongst ourselves, they are like gifts and our temple is radiant. When we share our thoughts, we must be deliberate, not careless. When we do not think kind, wise thoughts, or when we communicate good thoughts badly, they are like rocks thrown through a window. Or gifts with the price tag intentionally attached with no card wrapped in soggy brown paper. This brings us directly to how we here share our thoughts to create this living temple of energy. When we are at our best, we are together, and we use music, art, and careful words spoken carefully with practiced timing, goodwill, meaningful tones, eye contact, and facial expressions that reflect our thoughts and even our feelings, which are so often attached to our thoughts. We carefully watch those who we are sharing with to be sure that our thoughts have safely navigated that swirling, eddying, sucking river of treachery that we refer to as language. When we are at our worst, we use these. One of our congregation members, Glenn Kiley, calls them Orwellian pocket bots. And we use them unnecessarily and entirely too often. This is why I would like each of you to put yourself on a text and email diet. Having looked at the White House, you might also include tweeting. And perhaps we should do like the Mormons and limit email to Mondays only. I thought that was rather clever. Besides, people would expect so much less in the way of responses. No temple of thought can withstand the onslaught of text and email written in isolation, possibly in anger, lacking the warmth of voice, sent to the wrong person, received at the wrong time, thoughtlessly forwarded to entire groups, routinely auto-incorrected, and finally deleted without being read. After all, it arrived wrapped in soggy brown paper. I want to close this by sharing some of the lyrics from one of my favorite Jews, So let us not talk falsely now. The hour is getting late. Bob Dylan.
Thank you, Michael. So, I'm supposed to be talking about change, and I'm supposed to connect it with Martin Luther King. And so I'm going to be doing both. And part of what I will be doing as I go along, I'll move in just a sec, you'll know, is I'll be reading some pieces from Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, but I'm not doing the whole thing, and I'm not going to put you through all that. But first, I want to talk with you a little bit about that thumbs activity. So if I can get this on, because I don't like hiding behind this. So, a little lower, thank you. How many of you are still doing the thumbs? How does it feel? Feel awkward? Weird? You know, it's about change. This is a very simple little activity with change, and you had a chance to experience a little bit. Change is very frequently uncomfortable. It's hard. You know, if you just go and put your hands together again, it's probably going to go back to the way it was before, not the way it changed. There may be a couple people out here, though, that say, oh, I like the new change. And they're doing it that way. And I can guarantee you there are some people that when I suggested doing it, they said they weren't going to do it. Okay. That is part of what happens when you look at change activities. And so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on all of this because I don't have a lot of time. But one of the things that I want to do is to structure this as an innovation, okay, as something new and different. And I'm just using research jargon. I've been in education a long time and a researcher and did a lot of work with change and organizational development. So you're going to get some of that stuff sort of is the language that I'm used to. It's an innovation. One of the important things about innovations, though, is how you get it defined. And people talk about innovations as something that's new and different, and they talk about it locally. You know, it hasn't been done here ever, or it hasn't been done here recently, but it may have been done someplace else. But for the local, it's an innovation. Now, there are also innovation, and I was part of an R&D organization, and we created the country's first virtual high school. It had never been done anywhere before. That, for me, is much more of a true innovation, but that's my bias. But we're talking about innovations. The important thing about innovations, though, is to get them properly defined and how you do it. So when I talked about swapping thumbs, some people just did that. They didn't do the whole swap. My innovation is to change the position. And if you don't have a sense of the direction for the innovation, when somebody says change, in New Zealand, when I went to visit the grandkids, the common language for when the kids did something nicely was good job. And so they would hear, you know, good job when they did something. Nobody ever said, go and do a good job, because a good job isn't defined. You say, do something great, you know, do a great job. Well, fine, but my definition of great job, Kim's definition of great job, Chris's definition of great job, Arthur's definition of great job can be very, very different. And we've each done a great job based on what we think, but not necessarily what the other person thinks. So part of, we're talking about innovation, when we're talking about change, is to describe it carefully. So what does that mean in terms of where we are? Think about some of the places where you hear people talking about change. Make America great again. What does that mean? You know, everybody that hears it has their own definition, and so it sounds good. We can do it. But your definition to make America great and her definition to make America great could be very different. Maybe not. But, yeah. So it's thinking about how you define things. And the language that we use when we're looking at describing an innovation is, number one, to characterize it, and then talk about the components of it, and identify them as either ideal, this is a great way to do this innovation, it's acceptable, or it's unacceptable. Now, one of the challenges we've got some organizational things talking about chalice circles. So I've got a challenge for the chalice circles. Take a look at the covenant and see if you can put together a description of what the covenant looks like. Because right now it's a set of words. But it does not, you can't walk into the covenant and say, oh, I can see that. You may think you see it, but does everybody see the same thing? So, challenge for chalice circles or for other parts of the organization is to take some of the things that we are talking about. We've got a mission. Missions sounds good. Love in the community, what's that look like? So thinking about these things and connecting them. Let me come back to Martin Luther King. When the architect of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. The note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Part of a successful change strategy is building a supportive community. Dr. King wasn't alone. People talk about Dr. King, and they don't often mention the people that he worked with. A. Philip Randolph, Bayard Rustin, Lewis, James Reeb, Thurgood Marshall, Rosa Parks, Stokely Carmichael, Claude Colvin, or maybe SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, or CORE, the Congress for Racial Equality. They're all part of Dr. King's community. What community is he part of? I'm going to just talk a little bit about communities. Some of you get the Caller Times? Okay. The Caller Times identifies you as being part of their community. You may not feel it, but they see you as part of their community. And you get the Caller Times for whatever reasons work for you. Some people want the Caller Times for the comics. And that's the thing they care about. Some people, it's sports. Other people might even be into it for news. But, but you have reasons for doing it. And you are getting something out of it, some benefit, that is greater than the cost of the subscription. And I talk about that as benefit and pain. There's a pain, the cost. Okay, you're here. You are part of this community for whatever reason. I will guarantee you that there are at least 10 different reasons people are here. That everybody isn't here to hear rousing spiritual campaigns. I'm sorry. Some people are here for the music. Some people are here for community. Okay. What I'd I'd like to do is have everybody stand up. Do you remember where the new... Give you a minute to go around and say hi to folks. Say hi to the people that you haven't seen in a while. Say hi to the people that you like. Just let's take some time and build the community.
Hey, Ray. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Hey,
Good to see
Ray.
you.
Good to see you.
I know.
Hello again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Too tough.
Yeah, I know they are. But you did them well. You know, you're not the guy. You're not either guy.
Not a guy.
You're not a guy.
And the hard part is getting them all back. You know that.
Oh, I know that. But I've got chimes.
Shut up and sit. Jerry, I'll give you that dollar.
Thank you. I know. I know. Thank you for participating. Thank you for being part of the community. There are lots of other things that I could do with it. You just saw Kim come up and tell me, you're running short of time. I know. We had discussion about how long I was going to take. He did some piece. We went longer in a number of places. It was important to do. One quick thing about innovation and who's involved, and there's a way of characterizing it. Guys, did you have that slide up? Okay. I just want to show you this. This is how we identify the people. And they're on one end are the innovators. When you're thinking about change activities, don't think about the innovators. On the other end of the resistors, don't think about the resistors. They can kill your effort more easily than you can win. You want to find the leaders, and you want to bring them along. So there's early adopters and early majority and late majority. People move through these things at different speeds and different rates, and it depends on what the activity is. The person who was a resistor for the thumbs might be very much an innovator in a different activity. The person who was an innovator on the thumbs and is doing the thumb thing all the time now might be a resistor when it changes. So there's a variety of pieces. I want to wrap up my piece here before we get Kim doing one more with some words from Dr. King again. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at a table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a desert state, sweltering in the heat of injustice and oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content and character. I have a dream.
Please
lines of people around the table. Gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days. No fancy style at the welcome table. No fancy style at the welcome table one of these days. Hallelujah. Oh, fancy styles at the welcome table. Gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days. Final words. You can sit. Again, Martin Luther King. When this happens and we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state, from every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, even Unitarians, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. Thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and hopefully we'll see some of you tomorrow.